So Steffen is the CTO of Synthesia, and Synthesia is one of the tools that is already out there for quite a while. So they were uh, uh, early in the whole AI exposure thing, I would say. And it's an amazing tool. So you just type in a text, and then you choose your avatar, and the avatar speaks your text, and you can even have it speak your text in many different languages. So it's a very interesting technology, but it also raises a couple of questions. So first, Stefan will walk us through that, and then we'll talk a bit about the up and the downsides that potentially are attached to that technology. So Stefan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Casper, and thank you so much, Molly, for inviting me. I'm happy to share a little bit more about Synthesia and the wonderful world of AI-generated content. I'll try to do this as brief as possible, but I want to give you a little bit of an overview of where these technologies are coming from, but also where they are today and where they're potentially also moving into in the future. So I'm still the technical genius behind technology. These technologies stems in spirit from Stanford University, where Professor Matthias Niesner and Lourdes Agapito for the first time showcased how you can kind of change and update video after the fact. And when Victor and myself saw this, it was just an incredible glimpse into the future of content creation. And we all united on this mission of making video easy for everyone, right? And here it was less about making a smaller, more affordable camera or making a slightly more intuitive video editing experience. It was really thinking video from first principles and try to let computers synthesize and generate the pixels, as opposed to kind of capture that much more efficiently with traditional kind of production processes. So we set out on this mission in 2017, before ChatGPT, before any kind of these kind of adventures that's kind of happened and then pioneered this space since. Why is this interesting? Why does this matter at all, especially in a kind of e-learning context, right? I think it's probably no surprise to many of your audiences that is just requesting more and more kind of engaging forms of media, right? And if we think about our private lives, it's very dominated by rich media. So everything from consuming Netflix and TikTok and YouTube, which is kind of very video-first interfaces that we do in our private lives. But when we come into work, right, it's often PDFs, PowerPoints, emails, Word documents. It's very kind of piles of text that is facing us. And it's not because companies don't know that, and you of all people don't know that. It's simply just because the traditional production process and going from just the simplest form of idea is still a very multidisciplinary process that requires a lot of different steps, right? And then when you want to change one thing, right, it's all over again. So the way this type to the standards and to the kind of the needs of a modern work professionals. They want to listen and kind of watch their content as opposed to read, right? So what Synthesia has been working hard at for the last 7 years is to kind of compress the entire production process into this video editor that looks and feels very much like PowerPoint. The big difference is obviously the script box, the actors to create these presenter-led videos in the browser. And here what we're doing is that when you press generate in the top right corner here, you actually are synthesizing the lip movements, the facial expressions, the audio track of the actor to create these e-learning style content pieces at a snap of a finger. And that is really kind of the breakthrough that Synthesia has been pioneering for the last few years. The way kind of our customers are typically using the technology is less about, replacing all the amazing kind of brain content and a lot of the high production value with senior executives or with CEO messaging and these type of things. It's really about replacing or converting a lot of the text-based information that has never been having the budget or the time to actually become a video, right? So it is really kind of lifting all this text that nobody reads into much more kind of engaging forms of media. And I think the best example of this is probably McDonald's, right? When you are a 18-year-old new McDonald's employee, do you want to receive a 30-second video on how to empty the deep fryer or a 3-page PDF that's typically a no-brainer for the individual, right? Because it's way more engaging. You actually understand what's happening. It's also a no-brainer for McDonald's, right? Because the learning retention, the ramp times, the efficiency is just going up dramatically. And that's very much the common denominator across many of the logos and companies that we're already working with, is to really kind of transition a lot of this kind of text-based training and learning content into much more engaging video formats in 150 languages that we now support. I think I'll just quickly pause here and show how some of our customers are using the technology. If you have that, Molly.
Microsoft Teams is built for hybrid collaboration.
You'll find everything you need to know about Oracle Digital Assistant.
The first step in your Go Cardless journey is choosing how you would like to use it.
For web, you can also set your horizontal and vertical padding to
Digital Journey Enablement Session on April 6th.
Hello, I'm Jarek's avatar, your digital innovation assistant.
On your first day at Netflix, you'll meet your manager and
Mein Name ist Sandy Bacchus. Seit 2020 bin ich selbstständige Partnerin der
Yeah, so it's a pretty versatile tool that can be used for so many different things. And the power of it is that it's really as easy as it looks. It is really kind of as easy to produce as it is to do a PowerPoint. I'll just quickly flip through a few more case studies, and then we can jump into the Q&A. But the way our kind of customers are thinking about it is kind of improving, the viewer experience over kind of text, but also thinking about it in a cost production perspective, right? So how is these kind of methods stacking up against kind of physical production as kind of way to kind of reduce cost, right? And we have as mentioned, a lot of different kind of companies, right, that is using it for many different things. And here's just Xerox that is using it to train their sales force. They have a very remote sales force that has a hard time to get up to speed with some of the latest features, the latest kind of product stuff. How do you actually enable a very distributed workforce to know the latest kind of product knowledge and product landscape? So that's kind of a pretty good use case where we just see video working really well in these kind of more asynchronous type of use cases where you don't have everybody in a meeting room today. And we're also working with DuPont that obviously has, many different geographies around the world and many different locations with a very kind of complex kind of product suite. So here it's also really kind of leveraging video to just enable and create much more engaged employees. Using the powers of the languages, but also the power of these videos being tailored to different audiences around the world, right? And some of the things that we see many of our customers are leveraging is that once video kind of breaks the chains of being a normal video and is actually as easy to produce as a PowerPoint, you also start to change the way you use video, right? So you probably want to communicate slightly differently to your new employees versus existing employees, and you probably want to speak very differently to a developer versus, a HR employee, right? So it's also kind of really changing video from this kind of one size fits all and become much more tailored way of kind of communicating to different audiences and much better and much higher way to resonate with your audience. Also using Zoom to kind of using more interactive terms of sales training. So having different personas that is kind of representing different kind of ICPs and personalities. How do you train a workforce to communicate and understand some of the customers that they're selling into in a much more engaging way? Before I round off here, I'll just talk a little bit about where we think these technologies are going in the future. So what you see on the platform today is very much these kind of 2D avatars that's kind of talking to you. It can look and feel very much like a PowerPoint with an avatar on top. But where we're moving in the short, hopefully next year, is to go more into 3D. So creating much more full body, fully expressive avatars that can kind of do much more advanced and sophisticated storytelling. And that is kind of the path that we are on as a company, to really kind of pioneer the change and the shift from recorded to actually generated content, and being kind of the leading digital human company to create these presenter-led content pieces in the browser. So with that was a quick intro to Synthesia. I'm happy to provide anybody with a free trial. You can feel free to reach out to me here on the email or on LinkedIn or in the chat, or also send my contact information. But thanks a lot for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thanks for the presentation, Steffen. And already a couple of questions are popping up in the chat. Feel free to add more. We'll go over them in a minute. But first, I want to ask some questions to you, because it's great technology, and it is indeed that easy. You put in the text, press the button, and you get the video. But it also raises some questions on which information, which content is real, which is not real, which is created by AI. So how do you look at that? Do you think as a problem, as a threat?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, with all these kind of new technologies, right? I think it's a lot about transparency and not trying to kind of fool the audience. So how we see many of our customers and the best practices around this is to kind of have high transparency upfront. So being very upfront that, hey, I'm an AI-generated presenter. I'm going to talk you through this course today. I'm not a real human. It's a little bit when you interact with maybe a chatbot on a website and you think it's a human, but it turns out to be a computer. You also get very frustrated pretty quickly. So here we really advise people to be very transparent with how they kind of use the technology and not try to kind of fool anybody, to level set those expectations. And that is typically received very, very well by the audience.
Yeah, and I think the usage of Synthesia is, of course, a bit different because it's a fixed set of avatars that you can use. So it's not that you can suddenly have Donald Trump think that he didn't. But there is, of course, also technology which is sort of in line with what you do that makes that possible. So how do you look at that? Do you consider that dangerous? Or is that?
Yeah, so there's obviously how Synthesia's technology is not being used for bad. So we have a pretty kind of strong guidelines, and we knew when we started the company that these technologies are pretty controversial. So we've kind of built an ethical framework when we started the company around the 3 C's, which is everything about explicit consent. So everybody who's becoming an avatar on the platform has to explicitly say they want to become an avatar. And we have a KYC style type of funnel to become an avatar. So everybody can kind of create it, but they have to go through this kind of protocol to make sure that they understand what they're saying yes to. The next component is around control. So if you actually change your mind, you should always be in control of your own likeness and your own avatar. So you'll still have a lot of control around your avatar in that sense, and you can always track that. And the last piece is around collaboration, right? We know these technologies is here for good, and it's kind of the genie's out of the bottle to an extent. So it's also a lot about how do we collaborate with other partners to roll these out in a safe and secure manner. So we engage a lot in the community, both with regulators, with other tech companies, the big tech giants, of how do we roll these technologies out in a safe and secure manner, while also kind of leveraging and harnessing some of the positive effects that we see.
Okay, but the way you speak about it is more that you sort of urge people to sort of be transparent, but it's not that you have like a watermark so you can actually see that it's an AI generated video and it's not a real person talking to you.
Yeah, we do actually do that in more on the metadata. So we work with the Adobe content or authenticity kind of protocol, which is kind of a broad, kind of more internet-wide scale type of way of doing it. There's some companies that want to kind of be very upfront, but we let our customers make that decision. But on the actual metadata, we are actually encoding that it has a signal. This has been, been AI generated, yes or no. But I think actually the signal, if something has been through an AI system, yes or no, I think it's going to be a very weak signal in a few years, similar to photos, right? If you look at every photo on the internet, they have been through some photo filter or through Photoshop or through something. So if this picture has been altered or been changed, that will give you a very kind of false positive signal to many of the images on the internet. So the way we're thinking about this is more about media provenance. So is this the original meaning with the content, even if you're using visual effects or AI techniques to kind of alter that story or alter the kind of the images, but is this the actual original purpose with the piece of content? And when that provenance is changed or broken, that's kind of really where things are kind of being signaled. So that's more the kind of the framework and the lens that we are thinking about the safety around these technologies.
Okay. And a bit more practical is also connect to a couple of questions already popping up. It's around the avatars that you use. So you have a fixed set of avatars, and it's sort of and you publish it. So I'm not able to create an avatar myself, correct?
No, you can create an avatar of yourself, and that is actually a very popular feature. So it is a kind of 30-minute protocol to kind of create a custom avatar of yourself. It doesn't require any special hardware, any special equipment, but we're not touching a lot of the image quality, right? So if you record on your webcam at home, it will also be a less kind of good quality avatar that you get out in the other end. So we suggest that the customers are kind of investing a little bit in a nice camera and a nice green screen and a nice kind of backdrop to make sure that they actually get a good avatar out in the other end. But you can make your own avatar, and it's a very popular feature.
Okay, so I just shoot a video with certain requirements and then upload it, and then you create an avatar out of it, and then basically I can use myself to speak things through text.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In
And
150 languages.
Yeah, because that's one thing that next to having the feature that text to video, it's also text to many languages, of course. And is that being used a lot? We have a feature in Easy Generator ourselves where people can translate content on the fly into many languages, and with the users for that. Is that also a big feature in your tool in Synthesia?
Yeah, totally. I think it's just getting more default that people are expecting their content in their local language, especially as these techniques are allowing it. There's not really any excuses anymore to kind of, having this kind of one size fits all with, either English or other kind of, main languages that people want to consume, right? So with these techniques, making it much easier to kind of consume and kind of, create the content, I think it's just becoming much more table stakes for companies to communicate with employees in their own language, especially as companies operate globally, right, and have many different employees around the world. I think you just see that the engagement of kind of the content in local languages is much higher than if you just have kind of English and also one size fits all, right? And I think one thing is the translation, which is the easy, or it's the most kind of obvious way of localizing. But you probably also want to speak in a slightly different tone, catering for other kind of cultural differences. If you're speaking to people in Korea versus in France versus in Germany versus in Latin America, right? You probably also want to alter slightly the way you communicate, apart from just the languages kind of change the one-to-one, right?
A real localization there. And just one question, if I look at the translation feature we have, so that's also automatically translated. And it is pretty good, but it's far from perfect. So we always advise people that they sort of do a double check and have somebody who is like fluent in that language to check it. How does that work with Synthesia?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think these machine translation systems are getting really, really good. They're still not perfect, but I think it also depends a little bit on what is the content and what is the threshold of quality. Where if you work in very highly regulated industries where it has to be just word perfect and you can't have any wrong kind of interpretations, that's obviously a different bar than if it's more kind of low stakes content that just needs to be available in different languages, right? So I think it's up to the individual company, the individual use case to judge where that line is going. But we are building workflow where you can kind of come in, you can invite your local colleague to kind of come in and verify the translations.
Okay, so that
And that's obviously also something that is very popular. Yeah.
I already see a couple of questions popping up around cartoons avatar. Is that something which is available in Synthesia, or is it always like video based?
Yeah, so we've kind of been contemplating this for a long time, right? But we have to also, as a startup, think about what is our claim to fame, and thinking that we can do everything as perfect as at once is probably a little bit too unrealistic. So we've kind of decided to just focus on 100% photorealistic humans, while other companies are kind of probably more going into the animation side of things. But we are seeing a big shift from a lot of the cartoon-based kind of learnings into more digital or much more realistic humans with Synthesia, as especially for more soft topics and more serious topics, right? Where it can also be a little bit funny to see a cartoon going through some quite serious topics. So there's probably a need for cartoon for some type of content, but we are seeing a stronger and stronger preference for actual real humans, as we as humans have been since hundreds of thousands of years, have been used and very hardwired to understand and communicate with other people, right? And that's very much how we have kind of perceived and understood information as a species. Yeah.
Okay, so there are other tools out there that have cartoon-like avatars, but it's probably not something that we will see in Synthesia. Okay, clear. So, Molly, so you have been monitoring the chat. So any specific questions that pop up that you want to address? We have 5 more minutes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, there have been a lot of questions specific to Synthesia. One question about when people will be able to import the script directly from PowerPoint notes section into Synthesia without having to copy or paste. So I guess the integration with PowerPoint, whether that's possible.
Yeah, so we have a pretty low-level integration with PowerPoint. We're working on better ways, but Microsoft unfortunately is not too generous with how the API works. So it's more a kind of restriction on the PowerPoint API. We are working on alternative ways to make that integration a bit more smooth, where you can don't have to kind of copy and paste and do it too much, as kind of how it works today.
Perfect. And this one is about kind of the integration with GPT. John asks, can this be integrated with GPT for dynamic exchanges with an avatar, for example, to practice a feedback conversation?
Yeah, so we are actually we're launching 2 avatars on screen, hopefully in the next few weeks. So that's gonna be where you can kind of change the editor from this one single kind of avatar talking to you to become much more kind of conversational. And we also have a kind of a ChatGPT kind of integration into the platform, so you can actually generate the content and create these kind of more scenario-based or conversational types of videos. So we'll also launch a few templates that people can use once they are kind of generating content in more of these styles, but that will come out in a few weeks.
I also see a question on integration with Easy Generator. So I know that we are partners, so there's a partnership agreement in place between Easy Generator and Synthesia, and I know that we did make certain that everything that you can create inside Synthesia is like working pitch perfect into Easy Generator. There's no integration yet. I know that there are some considerations there, so it would be awesome, because for us it's always that we only want to add features if they're really simple. So the idea would, of course, be that you just have like a text feature in this generator, press a button, and on the background Synthesia will actually provide you the interface and the video. So it's something that we are considering, but that hasn't been on the roadmap yet, as far as I know. Is that also your understanding, Steffen?
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna be more kind of proactive around the more native integrations. So easing the workflow with LMS system, with authoring tools like Easy Generator. So that's definitely something that we'll kind of evaluate and kind of consider more next year for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So who knows what will happen next year? Okay, Molly, over to you for the other questions.
Yeah, maybe one more quick question. This one, Robert was asking about what powers the translation in Synthesia.
So we work with a kind of number of the state-of-the-art machine translation companies that's out there. So we have some companies that you know more experts in Asian and APAC countries, and then we others that's more good in European languages. So we have a mix of the different users and the different kind of providers there.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good one to end on too. And yeah, I see a lot of other questions in the chat as well around Synthesia. So if you have any more questions, Steffen put his email address in the chat. Maybe, Steffen, you can do it one more time just so that it's fresh. So if you have any specific questions, you can definitely reach out to him as well. But yeah, I think that's everything. Casper, anything else on your end?
No, I want to thank Stephen for his participation, and I think this is a great example of AI and what it can do. And I also think it's a great example of how AI is like a supportive technology, because it makes it very easy to create a video, and it really is an option to create like more interactivity and engagement in learning in a very easy way. So I think it's a great example of the uses of AI. So thanks, Steffen, for showing us.
Yeah. Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much for having me. Thanks so much, Casper.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.